With over 150 champions, there are sure to be some mistakes. Riot is just a company filled with other humans, so definitely there are chances of messing up some champions. Right? The visuals and the kit's poor design makes the game uninteresting to play. When competing against them, you feel deceived, or as if you have no other choice but to give up. So welcome to another video. We will be checking out the top 10 worst champion designs in LOL. Number 10, Malzahar. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and mention Malzahar first. Malzahar is a bit of a non-entity in terms of design. His character is based on classic Jin images. That doesn't help him much because he isn't that. He's hidden mainly by fabrics and strange gauntlets. He also has a dagger in his hands, which he never uses for anything. He's one of the game's most mind-numbingly dull champions. He's not the champion for you unless you enjoy spamming one ability in the lane in a never-ending effort to push the turret. Some of this champion's flaws are his lack of mobility, reliance on stamina, inability to be used strong until mid-game, and semi-falling off late in the game. If you favor auto-farming or prefer to play the game passively, then maybe you'll enjoy playing him. Number 9, Aurelian Sol. Aurelian Sol has to be one of the league's saddest characters. Aurelian's design is a floating jaw and skull borne atop the body. His entire body is covered in galaxies that are nearly transparent. However, his character in the game appears to be pretty ridiculous, especially since it's difficult for them to bring his galaxy-like body through. Overall, he looks okay, but I wish we could say the same for his abilities. I'm not sure why Riot Games treats Aurelian the way they do, but he's one of the game's poorest picks right now. Aurelian Sol introduced an extremely intriguing mid-game playstyle when he initially came out. His powers were one of a kind and he could wander the map assisting teammates and scoring kills. Riot Games didn't like how professional mid laners were using Aurelian Sol, therefore he was nerfed 100 times in a row. As a result, Aurelian Sol is no longer played. They have no purpose in doing so. Number 8, Kalista. If you didn't know, Kalista is commonly regarded as League of Legends' worst champion. Kalista is the weakest champion in LOL, but only in solo queue. She's an interesting example of how a champion may be bad in one type of game, while being one of the best in the other. Kalista might be one of the only characters whose primary design goal wasn't attractiveness or beauty. But honestly, when I first see her, she reminded me of Ben 10's Diamond Hit character. Her kit is entirely designed for coordinated team play rather than the chaotic solo queue environment. Kalista's ultimate, for example, requires you to link yourself to an ally. After that, you can use this ability to draw that ally back so he can knock down opponents. Kalista's R is the flame source between teammates in most solo queue scenarios. All you need is communication to make her work, which isn't the case here. As a result, Kalista is frequently the bot lane loser, and for those reasons, players hate her when she is chosen for their team. Number 7, Yuumi. Almost every character in the league centers on darkness or evil, and then there is Yuumi. Yuumi is nothing but a cat with a fantasy book in her hands. I'm not sure why a kitty is made to be a champion. Her character is designed around cuteness, and there isn't a single shred of darkness in her. Yuumi has always been a troublesome and annoying champion to play against, particularly in higher ranks when players have learned how to take advantage of her strength and scaling. Yuumi has the lowest win rate in the game, with every ability costing more than 100 mana. Heal only restores 20% of the health of teammates. In my opinion, Yuumi is rather boring to play. Number 6, Viego. Viego, aka the Ruined King, but when we look at his appearance, that title doesn't match him. My guy is wearing skinny jeans, a crop top jacket with a messy white hair and eyeliner. Maybe we can call him the Emo King. He has a strange kit that starts as a powerful duelist, but soon becomes a team fighter / skirmisher, which pops off when he gets an ultimate reset. Because of his possessive passive and strong ultimate, his kit was never meant to be weak. After all, most of his damage comes from Q passive procs. Thus, his basic abilities can feel underpowered at times. His Q stab deals very little damage throughout the game, and his W has no ad scaling. His main difficulty is understanding other champions. This isn't a problem if you've been playing for a long time. I must admit that his late game is excellent, but when compared to any other late game champion, his early game is by far the worst. I find him to be a dull champion to play. Number 5, Teemo. Teemo is a tiny hamster in a hat with a blowpipe. Yeah, no, that's a no for me. His design doesn't tell much of his backstory. Like said for Yuumi, what's a hamster doing as a champion? Teemo used to be a threat in the early game because of his great damage, range, and speed. Most champions can now out-heal his poke and have more range than him, or have enough mobility to counter him, and many champions can quickly pursue him down, making him a weak champion. Only one scenario gives Teemo the upper hand, enemies repeatedly stomping on his mushrooms. However, putting mushrooms isn't always simple, especially if your team is behind. It's usually a waste of time to enter your opponent's forest, only to be put up traps for enemies to step on. Putting your LP at stake by playing Teemo is a massive no-no for many League players. Number 4. Poppy. Poppy is another top laner with trouble figuring out where she fits in the current meta. None of the mythic equipment helps her much, except increasing the damage of her attacks. Her ability set is also geared for battling in melee range, with an ultimate nearly useless in solo queue. Poppy's major flaw is that her champion design doesn't exactly fit with the modern League of Legends. When you look at her skills, you notice that none of them is beneficial, especially in team combat. Poppy becomes an enraged little Yordle who only goes around and swings her hammer on the minions. For Poppy to work, Riot will need to add some new mechanics to her tool. Her character design can do much better, but I can't say it's the worst, although I'd imagine her to be a bit more cute and muscular as a little Yordle. Number 3. Sona. Sona's biggest flaw is that she already looks like the majority of the female characters, quite typical with a nice figure and a gorgeous face. She was one of the most popular champions in the early days of LoL. She dominated the support meta by possessing all the necessary tools: damage, heal, speed, and stun. However, the game has evolved significantly and is no longer compatible with Sona's tools. To begin with, Sona's primary powers all have the same range, which is unusual for an enchanter. You can't use all of the powers at once because they have a short recharge timer. Furthermore, Sona's ultimate has a small range, making it challenging to stun a single champion. It was helpful when enemies didn't have as much escape options as now, but now it's completely useless. With a well-coordinated all-in team, Sona can be easily defeated. Number 2. Singed. Singed has history of being a mad scientist. However, his visuals do not scream mad scientist, in my opinion. His visuals do not match his backstory. He looks like an old man who was accidentally taken for scientific research purposes, but ended up being a failed test subject. Coming to his abilities, he is a champion who excels in a slow-paced game where the tank meta is in charge. Singed must prevent enemies from fleeing in order to be viable. However, this is far too difficult right now because LoL's mobility is also at an all-time high. Singed is a classic and straightforward champion. Players have figured out how to play against him and have mastered their strategies. Because of this, Singed isn't the character who could carry games. And number 1, Kai'Sa. Is it just me, or does anyone else think this champ is complete trash? Not simply in terms of visuals, but also in terms of her kit's overall design. Not only are the majority of abilities unoriginal for a champion, but her entire kit lacks cohesion. Her ult is the most intriguing aspect of her kit, but it appears to be a thrown-in ability, so they could claim she's a high-risk, high-reward ADC. Unfortunately, none of her skills except her W synergy with her ult. And when it comes to visual design, she is far too attractive for the Void, which is something that removes you from reality. In general, this is one of the most boring champions to be introduced in recent memory. Her kit's theme appears to be the Void Vayne, however, it fails to capture neither the Void nor the Vayne aspect. So that's my list of the worst designed characters in LoL in terms of visuals and abilities. If you think someone else could be on this list, you can comment down below. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching.